Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Cowboys and Seahawks met for a crucial matchup in the NFC playoff picture and delivered one of the Thursday night games of the season. Also, the 49ers have a possible NFC Championship preview this Sunday, and the Pac-12 is guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Thursday night's game between the Cowboys and the Seahawks was punters optional. We didn't see a single punt in the game. A 41-35 barn burner in Dallas. The Cowboys come out on top, and Dak Prescott with another stellar performance. Landon McCool from Locked On Cowboys joins me now. Landon, I made the case, by the way, the other day. Dak Prescott, the MVP of the league. I don't know if you saw that. We got another stellar performance from him. But let's start with the defense, because that's supposed to be something they're really good at. And this game was not a great example of that. What happened?
It certainly wasn't. And I don't know if it's just, mental fatigue after playing the third game in 12 days. They do this every year, though. I mean, it's not like this is some unique situation for them. To me, I think from the eye test, it's easy to blame the cornerbacks, specifically Deron Bland, who seemingly was picked on quite a bit. I'm also taking the coincidence that this is the next time I'm on your show after touting Deron Bland as a excellent replacement. And all he has done is broke the NFL pick six record. Yeah. And then now he has this terrible game, and that's when you decide to bring me back. So, but he still managed to have an interception. Honestly, I think a lot of the problem in the first half specifically was that the Cowboys pass rush couldn't do anything. Like they just couldn't get any pressure on Geno Smith, and they were forced to cover too long on the back end, and ultimately with guys like Lockett and obviously DK Metcalf, who decided to completely wake up in this game. It's hard to cover for that. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, who also had an incredible game. Hometown Dallas guy, has the star on his muscle. He's not going to have a weak game in Texas Stadium, and I'm pretty sure the last time he played in that stadium, he won a state title. So.
And on the drive at the end of the half where Seattle scores the touchdown that wasn't, and then the DP, like that was one of the weirdest sequences I can remember. But Micah Parsons was wrecking shop on that drive, and it didn't matter. Geno Smith was just putting the ball wherever he wanted. Sometimes you just run into a game where the quarterbacks are feeling it, and you get an outcome like this. The good news for Dallas is if there's going to be a guy this season that you want on your side in a shootout, right now it seems like it's Dak Prescott. What have you seen this year from him? Because there were a lot of questions, Mike McCarthy, the play calling, what's it going to look like? And again, I've just made the case on the show. He's the MVP of the league. What is different about him? What has he added to his game?
Well, I think it's just first of all, this is the first year it feels like a lot of things have come together. He's fully healthy. He had a full offseason, full training camp. And you've seen that with his ability to use his legs a lot more. You saw it in the game where they obviously had optional runs. But beyond that, too, just being able to, that escape from Taylor, was one of the best. That was Romo-esque in his ability to kind of just escape pressure and then make a play down the field. And I think that has to do with just being healthy in the lower body, which, he's got his strength back. He can run. He was never like a Jalen Hurts or a Lamar Jackson in the sense that he was a huge threat to run the football, but just being able to pick up first downs with his legs if he needed to, or pick up extra key yards when needing to, I think that's helped, and getting out of the pocket. And then on top of that, I think what Mike McCarthy's offense has done is that he's really kind of taught him to better use his cadence, which I think has really helped a lot. And I also think that Dak is just in a lot more comfortable situation in the offense, because for the first time in, 3 years, we've had continuity on the offensive line. We've had our actual starting five at the starting five for multiple games in a row. And you see it, look, Dak got sacked a lot and there was definitely some pressure, but the difference of his ability to stay in the pocket and be able to operate and wait. I think that's been a huge boost to his confidence, the offense's confidence overall. And I think it's shown, like this was, an MVP, earmark performances, one that you look back on like, look, the defense wasn't doing it tonight. Dak had to carry this team for 4 quarters until the defense woke up a little bit in the end. But I think you see a guy that's playing with complete command of the offense. And then on top of that, being able to operate outside of the offense and create plays on his own. He's playing fantastic right now.
And he's going to have to keep it up because they get the Eagles in 10 days. They get the mini bye ahead of Philadelphia, who has to play an absolute battle with San Francisco this week. Then they go to Buffalo, to Miami, and home for Detroit. This schedule does not let up. So if they're going to try and win this division, if they're going to try and get a home playoff game, they're going to need Dak Prescott on his absolute P's and Q's like he was tonight. Landon, thanks.
Thank you.
Stay up to date all year on the Dallas Cowboys by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Cowboys on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the 49ers have their biggest test yet. Before we get to that, the NFL is flexing a Monday night game. We're into the second half of the NFL season, and now is the best time to turn your sports knowledge into cash with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, what are you waiting for? The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, teasers, and more. Plus, weekly boosts and promos give you the opportunity to increase your payout. The big game this Sunday, 49ers-Eagles, is going to get a lot of attention. It has a lot of attention from wagers as well. FanDuel has the Eagles as 2.5-point underdogs. I'm sure our friends at Locked On Eagles will love that one. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and do the NFL season right. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories in sports with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The NFL has made its first ever flex on ESPN's Monday Night Football, announcing Thursday that the Week 15 matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and New England Patriots is out in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles road game against the Seattle Seahawks. Imagine telling like a 2019 version of yourself that story. Incredible. The switch reflects how far the Patriots, once primetime darlings but 2-9 so far this season, have fallen. Patriots game against the Chiefs at Gillette and Foxborough will now be played at 1 o'clock. So not even a national game. The game will be the Eagles' 6th in primetime and comes the week after they visit the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. An arrest warrant has been issued in Dallas for Bills player Von Miller for allegedly assaulting a pregnant woman. On Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, Dallas police responded to a major disturbance call with the preliminary investigation showing that Miller and the woman got involved in a verbal argument and that he allegedly assaulted her. Per the affidavit for the arrest warrant obtained by ESPN, the woman and Miller had been in a relationship for 7 years. She told police officers that she is 6 weeks pregnant. Police responded and arrived at the condo, observing minor abrasions on her left hand along with bruising to her neck. Injuries, they say, are consistent with applied pressure to the neck, in addition to bruising to her abdomen and left bicep. On the hardwood, the Jazz traveled to face the T-Wolves
as the Jazz fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves by the final score of 101-90. The game got closer at the end as the Jazz outscored the Wolves 24-17 in the fourth. It was Jazz were down 20 at the largest mark of it. But really, if you look at this game, the Jazz were down 23-20 at the end of one. They stayed in it and were down by just two, or actually led or down by 2 at the half, 49-47. And Minnesota's defense was clamping down on the Jazz at that point. The Jazz half-court offensive rating in the first half was a 71, which is league average is about 1 point of possession. I mean, they were way below that, about third percentile. Jazz offense overall was at 98, below a point of possession. So Minnesota's defense, but the Jazz were kind of hanging. They were handling it. Minnesota without Anthony Edwards was limited. And then in the third quarter, it was a little bit of a mix of self-inflicted wounds. John Collins had 2 really bad handoff passes that led to fast, like what Rick Carlisle called fatal turnovers, where you make the turnover and it leads to a lead-out dunk. And then just some forced shots, but not overall, I actually thought they kind of dealt with what Will Hardy said is the theme of the night, which was how do we deal with adversity control, but they just couldn't stop the run. They just couldn't stop the run.
And on the ice, the Wild tried to get back on track against the Predators.
And the Minnesota Wild throttled the Nashville Predators to snap a Predators 6-game winning streak. We might have a secret weapon here for John Hines as the fourth line just unleashed again here tonight. Connor Dewar with a hat trick and another fun game against a Nashville team that was playing some good hockey coming in.
Yeah, I feel like it's like one of the first times of the year where Wild fans get to just sit back and relax a little bit. It's always so satisfying to see the younger guys step up, the fourth liner guys who don't get a lot of ice time. I think it's very refreshing. And, when it comes to that like fifth goal and you're not really screaming at your TV anymore, you're kind of just like, yeah, this is the Wild team I know and remember. And this Hines era is something special. And tonight was very satisfying, refreshing, and relaxing.
Yeah, and you look at all the things that we just have not seen so far this season. Building an early lead. The Wild I know they got called for another early penalty, but they killed it. The penalty kill literally killing it over these last two games as they are perfect in the last two.
It's an NFC Championship game rematch. This time, San Francisco is going to have its quarterback, and it's a game we expect to see come January time. It is Eagles. It's the 49ers. It's daytime primetime. Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers tells me. And this is a really fun game, Brian, because a lot has been said between these two teams since that NFC Championship game. The 49ers certainly feel a type of way about this matchup. Why will this one be different?
This is it. First of all, it is daytime primetime. I think maybe two markets in the entire country are not going to have this game. And it's an East Coast game that is West Coast time. And this is telling you Fox wants everybody to see it, whether you got cable, whether you're streaming, whether you got the rabbit ears on your letterbox TV, my grandma's going to be watching it. Everybody's going to be watching this football game. This is one of the games of the year in the regular season. It could be part one of 49ers Eagles, but more than anything, we get the opportunity now. And this is the stage for Brock Purdy. And the 49ers players told us after the game, we could not win because we did not have Brock Purdy. If that tells you how valuable he is. He was the last pick in the draft that year as a rookie. They could not win the NFC Championship game without him once he got hurt. Now he's healthy. Now the 49ers have a chance to show everybody what they were going to be last January with a healthy Brock Purdy. Again, it's in Philadelphia. The Eagles are 10-1. They are the home team. And I can't wait for it. This is what it's all about. There's players barking at each other. There's fans definitely barking at each other. This is daytime prime time for the NFL in Week 13.
Yeah, and I was shocked when I saw the opening line. According to our friends at FanDuel, the 49ers, 3-point favorites on the road going West Coast all the way to the East Coast for this one in Philadelphia. 8-3 Niners, 10-1 Philly. Even if you think the Eagles are a soft 10-1, and I kind of do, I was kind of shocked by that.
Yeah, do you prefer the better record that's a team that looks bad for half the game and then just is like, oh, that's right, we're better than you, and then walks away from teams in the second half? Or do you like the team that had some 3 weird games and has some losses, but destroyed everybody else and dominates from jump in the other 8 games of the year? Which team do you like more? And Las Vegas is telling us that they like the 49ers more, and they like the team that showed the ability to dominate for more quarters of games in the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan himself was asked the question, and he said he didn't know. And Nick Sirianni's trying to use it as a rallying cry, like, look how disrespected we are. Look, we're the underdogs. We're Rocky Balboa here. And I'm like, come on, you're 10-1, reigning NFC champion, Philadelphia Eagles. That's a little bit of a stretch, I think, trying to create a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, create some distress for your football team. But this is going to be a good one, and the players don't like each other. And everybody's healthy. Looks like Lane Johnson's going to play. Brock Purdy is going to play. Both teams have really good quarterbacks. And who knows, this might decide not only the NFC 1 seed, but the MVP of the NFL as well.
Yeah, very well could. If Jalen Hurts, if the Eagles win this game, it seems like it would be hard for Jalen Hurts to not win it, even if I'm not even sure he's been the best quarterback in his own division. But this could also be, you mentioned it, this could be a Christian McCaffrey, like it's a soft quarterback year. Hey, I'm actually the MVP. Like, what are the chances you think he could show out in this game and be like, hey, actually, I'm the MVP. Look at me. I'm the captain now. Like one of those kind of games.
Well, I think Purdy and McCaffrey are going to work against each other. So neither is going to end up winning the award. But it would take some pretty special collapses of some quarterbacks around the league for someone like Christian McCaffrey or any other non-quarterback to win that award basically ever again in our lifetimes. And to be honest with you, I don't think Christian McCaffrey is the most valuable player on the 49ers team. I think it is Brock Purdy. I would 100% rather play this game with Brock Purdy and no Christian McCaffrey, because we saw what it looked like with Christian McCaffrey and no Brock Purdy in January.
Yeah. Stay up to date on the San Francisco 49ers by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On 49ers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Pac-12 is guaranteed a playoff spot in what is the final season of the conference as we know it. This has been a harrowing season for the Pac-12. The writing is on the wall that the conference will either disappear or at the very least be vastly different next year. Locked On Pac-12 host Spencer McLaughlin looks at why the conference is guaranteed representation in the college football playoff this year.
I was wrong because before the season, all summer, leading up to the year and throughout the year, it was my contention the Pac-12 was not going to be able to make the college football playoff in the final iteration of the 4-team format. My thinking was that the conference is as good and as deep as it has ever been, and that everyone, as has often been the case, is just going to cannibalize one another. But that did not happen. Now, I think one of the biggest reasons it didn't happen is Cam Rising didn't play a single snap for Utah this year. I think that this completely altered the championship landscape and the college football playoff picture as well. Utah went 8-4 with Bryson Barnes there, who is severely limited compared to Cam Rising. They are 9-3 at the worst. They're probably a 10-2, maybe even, I'm not kidding, an 11-1 football team if Cam Rising's there. I think the gap between him and Bryson Barnes is significant enough. So that certainly helped. I also, like many people, overvalued USC. And I think undervalued both Washington and Oregon before the year and their ability to get through. Washington got through their conference slate undefeated. Oregon had just the one loss. They're meeting the Pac-12 championship game in Las Vegas on Friday. But the winner of that game is going to the playoff. And I don't see a realistic world in which that isn't the case.
It does make you wonder, especially given the quarterbacks, for example, in these situations. Bo Nix has bounced around college football. Would the transfer portal, had it been a bigger part, and name, image, and likeness been a bigger part of the last 10 years, 15 years of college football, would the Pac-12 be in the situation that it is right now on the precipice of dissolution? It seems unlikely, especially given the markets, for example, the deep pockets at places like Oregon, thanks to the connection to Nike. The landscape would look different. And it may very soon in a different kind of way, of course. It will look very different. I'm glad in a way that they're getting this last hurrah because the Pac-12 has plenty of the proudest programs in college football, even if they no longer have any true blue blood programs. This is just how this works. Things ebb and flow. And given the current climate, if you can't compete, and especially with the times of these games, 10 o'clock Eastern for all your games, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. And so they're going to have to figure something else out. I don't know what it's going to be, but I am excited for Washington and or Oregon to get their shot. And then it all looks different. And finally, Nick Saban is incredulous at the idea that the SEC could miss out on the college football playoff. There should be some representation from the SEC regardless of who wins the SEC championship game. Absolutely, he said. This kind of seems like a coach inventing something to argue about. In fact, there's a chance Georgia loses and still makes the playoff. In fact, I would say almost no matter what happens, if Georgia loses, they're going to be in the playoff. But hey, keep your team motivated however you want, I guess, which, by the way, Saban is a master at. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will the 49ers come out on top, or will the Eagles continue to fly, Eagles fly? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.